It's one of the best assignments at Fox.
God bless you.
But there are many things that the president talked about that he has the ability to do. Can he hire more FBI agents? Of course he can. Can he make background searches more efficient? Yes, he can. Can he expand the database on which background searches rely? Can he enforce federal gun laws more aggressively? Yes, but that shouldn't be newsworthy. He should have been doing that from day one on the job rather than waiting to year 8 to even suggest that he's going to do that. But what he cannot do is change the law. And here's where he purports to and prosecute people who disobey the law that he wrote. Congress, on 3 occasions, had before it the ability to change the law so that if you give a gun to me, you have to become a licensed gun dealer and do a background search on me. Congress,
that was the #1 thing he mentioned.
Correct. Congress 3 times said no. He's going to write that into the law, and he's going to prosecute people who fail to do it. That is a blatant violation of the separation of powers, which basically says under the Constitution, Congress writes the laws, the president enforces them. He's going to direct agents of the Department of, or the Bureau of Tobacco, Alcohol, and Firearms to find out where gun transfers have occurred, where the person selling or giving the gun didn't have a gun license with which to do so, and prosecute that person.
Can I briefly take the other side?
Gun license is the most difficult federal license to obtain. It takes over a year to get it. That's how intrusive is the background check on the person seeking the license.
Interesting. A plethora of information there. And you want to flip it.
I was listening closely to what he said about this because we have talked about this very issue. And he said that that was going to apply to people who were selling guns at a gun show or on the internet. I'm not sure he mentioned the neighbor thing. It'll be interesting to see that.
The neighbor in San Bernardino who supplied the guns to the 2 killers at the holiday office party.
Yes, and
neighbor.
I would say to you, Judge, you know, I can't give my prescription medicine, my penicillin, to my neighbor. I can't sell it to my neighbor. That's something that's supposed to do good but can cause harm. Does it make sense that we would let someone give or sell their gun to their neighbor?
It makes sense that only Congress can write the laws and not the president. So if he were Ronald Reagan, he would be using this as an opportunity to go over Congress's head and get the people to pressure Congress to write the laws that he wants. Ronald Reagan did that masterfully. Even Bill Clinton did that in the years when the Republicans controlled the Congress. But he's not doing that. He's writing the laws on his own.
Wow.
And as much as I love you and enjoy working with you,
Oh, gosh,
you must have seen a copy of his speech, because he likes to compare everyday things, like driving a car, to owning a gun, like giving a medical prescription to giving a gun. They're in different categories of human behavior.
Judge, what you saw really was a constitutional law professor holding what was not a typical White House event. That was essentially a political pep rally. I mean, he walked in, he might as well have been slapping everyone's hands, high-fiving, chest bumping, a victory lap. This is what you do after you sign a major piece of legislation, after going through the correct channels, which is Congress. Essentially, this is a congressional law professor holding a pep rally over the torching of the U.S. Constitution. How can he do this, and what are Republicans supposed to do? Because frankly, I think a lot of people look at the courts, and I know we're a very efficient judge, but frankly, Judge, the rulings coming out of the Supreme Court, they're unpredictable, they're a crapshoot. I mean, I think people look at these judges and they say, where are they getting the decisions from? So what are Republicans supposed to do besides create a political stink that will accelerate Republican turnout?
He may be doing this in order to goad the Republicans, but the way to stop this is for someone adversely affected by it, prosecuted under his own written law, to challenge it in the courts.
Wow. So doing this to go to the Republicans, that's interesting. Hey, before we move on, just real quickly, I want to get this in. I know you don't, but we'll come back to it. You know, at one point, the president talked about how we are the only advanced country where these sorts of acts of violence happen. Watch, and then we'll talk more.
We are the only advanced country on earth that sees this kind of mass violence erupt with this kind of frequency. It doesn't happen in other advanced countries. It's not even close. And as I've said before, somehow we become numb to it, and we start thinking that this is normal.
All right, I want to go to you first on this, Megan.
I had a very hard time watching this press conference or political theater or whatever you want to talk about it. And it just reminds me before President Obama was elected, when he was talking about Americans clinging to God and their guns. The Second Amendment is under attack today. Make no mistake. That is exactly what's going on right now. This president is not keeping Americans safe. ISIS is growing, and now he's trying to deny Americans the right to defend themselves at the same time. My favorite thing is that a dealer is now considered someone who's going to sell 1 or 2 guns. So if my brother sells my other brother 1 gun, he's now a dealer. And he's going to have to go through God knows what to do it. Make no mistake, the Second Amendment is under attack today.
And if your brother, in your hypothetical, fails to get the license to sell, your brother can be prosecuted and go to jail. Only Congress, under our Constitution, can create such a statute. The president alone simply cannot do that.
But he's talking about all the rights everyone has, we have in this country. We also have the right to bear arms, which makes us innately American. And just because he doesn't understand that and the way people cling to it in times like that doesn't mean he can just remove our rights.
Andrea, I want to get your direct response, if I can, though, to what we just aired from the president. And us being the only advanced country in the world where some of these things are happening. What do you think about that?
Did you notice the addition of a new word? Because I did. Advanced.
Yes.
He paused and then
that's why I said it twice.
He used to say, this doesn't happen in other countries. He said advanced. So what he managed to do essentially in that one phrase was lie, right? And then insult our greatest ally, France. So it doesn't happen in advanced countries? I mean, Judge, you and I were talking while we were watching this. What an incredulous straw man he set up to talk about long criminal rap sheets and merge Chicago with Islamists and mental health. I mean, he weaved together such a straw man. None of the shooters had long criminal rap sheets. None of what he is doing would have prevented any of the attacks that we've talked about. I mean, this was just showmanship in the most extra-constitutional way I have ever seen a president do.
You know, I was on with Brett Baer a little earlier.
I watched.
With John and Jenna, and Brett makes the great point that this is a political maneuver, that the president is too smart to think that the courts will tolerate this, but he will force Republicans to respond to it, and this is like red meat to the Democratic base.
So can I ask a question, though?
It is a big mistake, and he better be very thankful that mental health is covered under Obamacare, because Hillary Clinton's going to need it. But she's probably going,
Oh my God.
so scared that this is going to accelerate turnout. She's got to be
I want to ask a question, though. I mean, are there any parts of this that you think Americans would call their congressmen and their senators about and say, I mean, investing $500 million to expand access to treatment and for the mentally ill, I mean, are there certain things that you think people would like within this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I heard a lot of spending money, you know, which makes me cringe because I hate paying even more taxes, and I feel like so much of my money is wasted every single day. But he talked about 200 ATF agents, you know, updating the systems. He talked about making investigations better, spending money on all